Alright, time to make a tier list for my favorite dead mobile tower defense game that nobody knows or plays. Okay. Let's just jump right into it. So, Crazy Kings is, silly little tower defense game. Nobody plays it, except for me, because I'm awesome like that. And, I couldn't find, like, literally any sort of tier list for this game, because, nobody plays it, so I'm just gonna make one on my own. Alright, starting off with, I guess, equipment cards. So this is like shit that goes on your hero. We'll start with the helmets. So right off the bat, um, let's see, this helmet, the Frost helmet, it's going straight to S tier. Uh, gives you like a stupid amount of magic protection and physical armor, and it slows down enemies, and it also dispels invisibility. So, like, by far the best helmet in the game. Like, without a shadow of a doubt, if you can get it, that is. Uh, All-Seeing Helm. I'm gonna throw that one in B tier. It's gives you some magic armor and a bit of health, but it's really only good for dispelling invis. Vermilion Helm, that one's going A tier. It's basically got the stats of Frost Helm, just without the slowing like enemy movement and the ability to dispel. So, you know, best helmet there is without any special abilities. An Iron Cap. That one's just that one's just bad. Don't use that. Uh, and what's this one? Uh, fuck. The Valkyrie helm. I mean, you know, decent decent magic protection, and it gives you some speed, but I mean, really, like the top three, those are the only ones you really need to worry about. Oh, and of course you got the Minotaur crown. That one, I'm gonna throw an A. It gives you a bit of health, good amount of magic protection, and what is it? And you get a little bit of regen, so it's nice. Could pretty swappable with the Vermilion helm until it's higher level. Okay, armor. Armor of the Serpent King. Honestly, that goes straight to S tier. You get you get good health, magic protection, and you get a poison aura. So that's unique. Dragon Scale, literally like the mid-tier armor. Like there's nothing much to say about it. Balanced. Leather Cuirass, with worst armor, but it's good. I mean, use it, I guess. And Vermilion Plate, also S tier. Like you'll notice with the high level players, like they only use these two, obviously. They swap between these two and they only use the Frost Helm. Okay, shields. Magic Buckler. Don't use that shit. Just gives you a bit of speed and, you know, protection for magic. The Carrion Aegis. I'm gonna put that in A. Gives you 15% protection for every single type of damage in the game. So that's good, but you lose a bit of damage, which is fine. Orc Barricade, S tier. Every player uses that. You get crazy physical and magic protection, health regen, and mana generation. That's just crazy. Scarlet Shield. Hmm. I'm gonna put it in C. It's alright. It literally only gives you physical. Valkyrie Shield. I mean, same deal. Slows you down. Decent physical, but it also gives you health. So it's pretty interchangeable. And the Wooden Shield. Yeah, it's alright. I'd probably use it over the magic buckler. Okay, trinkets. There are literally four trinkets, and it's pretty simple. Don't use the life totem. All it does is give you more health, which is useless. Ring of Generation, it's alright. You know, regen isn't really all that. Ring of Might, it's decent. And the, what is it? The Girdle of Pain, that's the only good one. You get mana generation for, losing some health, but, that's fine. It's a very good deal. Okay, swords. Crimson Tower, A. It's the best physical sword by far. Crystalline, same deal, A. Very interchangeable, but it does magic damage instead. Hork Halberd, C. It's just like a lesser Crimson Tower. Okay, Life Drinker. This shit's like, for a King's drop, that shit is garbage. It does a bunch of physical damage, but you lose a bunch of health. You have -4 health regen, and it takes 2 seconds to hit, which most swords it only takes one, so it is not worth that trade. Salamander Sting, same deal to be honest. Um, like probably the least magic damage out of all the swords. It does a bit more damage for serpents, but it's pretty negligible to be honest. And it gives you some armor, but again, not very worth it. Fangblade, A, like honestly, it could go toe to toe with these two. It's just that because it's only poison, it's like it won't be as good as enemies with poison resistance, that's all. Staff of Dawn. You know, I don't think I've ever seen anyone using this. It does like pretty shit magic damage, so that can stay in D. Alright, boots. First off, boots of the Quantum Leap, S. That is, they literally let your avatar teleport across the map and it gives you a magic damage boost, so, you know. Oh shit, we got one more sword actually. Basic sword, don't use it. Use anything else. Oh, no, we're still not done, I guess. Okay, Thor's Hammer, also S. A bunch of magic damage, and it chains up to 3 other enemies. So, yeah, these S cards up here, they are like the only cards used by top players. All the other cards are not, used at all. Anyway, back to boots. Um, what is it? Slippers of Swiftness. Don't use that shit. All it does is make your character faster. No other stats. Boots of the March. A. It's good. They'll probably be the only boots you use until you get the boots of the Quantum Leap. And, the normal boots. Yeah, it's alright. Like, what's it do? It gives you a bit of speed and, like, pretty shit physical protection. Okay, on to heroes. Blink. Eve does nothing special except for the fact that he can teleport all over the map, like your character with this, so don't use him. He's pretty trash. Cobra, don't fucking use this guy. He is, what? He's got double damage against serpents, but the thing is his base damage is so dog shit, even at the higher levels, it doesn't do anything. Centurion, he's like probably the first hero card you'll get. Um, he's not that bad. Use him until you don't need to anymore. Holly, she can like heal, and healing is honestly really underrated, but she cannot heal herself, and it's in bursts. So honestly, don't use her. Just use like the healing spring. Oni, okay, Oni. He is like he's a bit of a variation from Centurion. He's got I guess a bit more health for less armor and less damage too, but I guess he does crits, so I mean C I guess. I don't really use him. Ace, I wouldn't really recommend using her either. Like, you get mana generation from her, but there's a lot of better ways to generate mana, so D, Nox, same deal. He doesn't do anything special. He's just kind of fast. He might be good like early levels. Knuckles. Knuckles is good. He's really tanky. And he can freeze enemies, but he's really slow. So he's not bad. Use him if you want. Oracle, Oracle. I'm gonna throw him in B just because I like using him. He's not the best, and his range for dispelling invis is kind of bad. Like you'd be better off using the helmet of the many eyes, wherever that is right here. But you know, not many things can dispel invis, so he's gonna be pretty useful for your serpent levels. But other than that, he doesn't do anything special. Wolfric, he literally has like the same attacks as Oracle, but they're magic. So he is pretty hard, so he's good. Saphira, I'm gonna throw her an A. Uh, one of the earliest heroes you get, and honestly one of the best ones if you can continue leveling her up. Umbra, I mean C, not bad. Poison damage, but again, it's poison, so won't be useful against like undead or any poison resistant enemies. Alright, Behemoth. I'm throwing this guy in C. Yeah, C. He's tanky, and he has regen, and he doesn't do much other than that. And he's kind of slow, so I wouldn't recommend him. Sindara, I'm gonna throw her in A. I think she's fun to use. She's a bit of a change from Saphira, where Saphira is like, physical and high hitting for one. She does magic AoE and damage over time, so you can switch him out whenever. Drake, also in C. I mean, he's cheap. He's got good health and damage, but he doesn't do anything. Only has poison resistance, so like, you know, not too good. Shelly, she's in B. Honestly, you could make an argument for putting her in A, if that is only if you micromanage with her, because she has a very long cooldown for attacks, but she does crazy damage. So if you micromanage, you can turn her into a kind of a semi-auto instead of just a regular sniper. Okay, Haunt. He's not too bad. Honestly, I'll throw him in A because, I mean, complete resistance to, like, immunity to poison, high magic resistance, and high magic damage, but, yeah, and good health. But, no physical, so kind of holds him back. Okay, I'm gonna skip over these two for now and go to Valorius. He's S, without a shadow of a doubt. He's like, if you're gonna use a hero on every mission, use this guy. Like, he boosts your damage. And he's fast. Like, he's got good, he's got really good, physical armor. The only bad thing about him is he has very low damage output, but that's fine. He's more of a support, honestly. And now for the two epic heroes. You know, I don't use Furnace that much, but from the few people who do still play this game, they kind of love him. So I'm gonna throw him in S. He has a special ability where like enemies around him will slowly take magic damage. Kind of like the ability of this thing, but not as good. Because this thing does more damage and it's poison. So, yeah, and he's got both good physical and magic armor, decent, kind of lower end damage output. And iron, I'm gonna throw him in A too. Uh, you know, decently fast armor. He's probably like the tankiest range hero, and he has really good AoE. He has like a mortar that, again, if you micromanage, can become really powerful. And let's see, last hero, Icebeard, I think that's his name. I don't have this guy, but from what I've seen of him, I think he's pretty good. He's got really high health, good damage, and he has the ability of this helmet, where enemies around him will be slowed. So, yeah. Okay. Okay, spells. Bear Trap, don't use that shit. Um, just don't. Blade Storm, it does extra damage against birds, but that's about it. Flare reveals invis, but like, honestly, at this point, you might as well just use Oracle or Helm of the Many Eyes. Freeze, okay. Freeze, that is going into S tier. This is like, I'm not even kidding when I say you cannot beat some levels without using this spell. You get to just hold a whole group of enemies in place for like 30 seconds. It's crazy, especially if you level it up. Healing Spring, same deal. This card is the only reason why your heroes will stay in the fight because, let's be honest, you cannot keep spending gems to revive your heroes for that long. Uh, Glyph of Fatigue. You know what? At first, I thought it was kind of bad because, like, you already got Slowdown Tower. Why would you want to use this? But it's still pretty good, so I'm gonna just throw it in B because, like, it's just slows enemies down in a certain path. Totem of Might. I honestly wouldn't use this. Um, Whereas, the Healing Spring, you'd want to use it over Holly, even though she can heal. It's kind of the opposite with this thing, because you'd rather use Valorious instead of planning this thing down. So, it's decent, but Valorious is better. Mm, Spider Mine, I don't use this very often, but a lot of other people do, and it seems pretty good, so I'll just throw it in B. Okay, Clarion Call, our next S tier. You get to summon 3 knights, and, it's very good for stalling. You combine that with Healing Spring and Valorious, and they are, like, unstoppable. So, yeah, it's just good. Especially if you level it up. Keeper of Time. Again, I don't use this card that often, but a lot of other people do. So it's not bad, you teleport enemies back. Rally, okay. I think this is D tier, honestly. All it does is it lets you teleport your heroes, and it gives them a little bit of healing in the process. So, I mean, if you've got other capabilities to teleport, this thing right here, don't use it. And I've never really had a level where I needed to use that either, so yeah. Meteor Strike, I think this is pretty F tier. It's pretty garbo. Don't use it. Like, it has low damage output, a really small radius, and like a stupidly long cooldown for what it does. So don't do that. Thunderstorm, I think it's alright. You get a burst, magic damage, helps keep enemies at bay. Artillery. Okay, artillery's it's going into A only because it does 2.5 times damage against orcs, which is stupidly crazy considering how much base damage it already has. And it can hit for like, you can increase the hit when you level it up. Only issue is you've only got 6 uses, so you gotta make them count. Mana Egg. I've never seen anyone use this, so you probably shouldn't use it. Generates mana, but again, there are better ways you can generate mana in this game. Elf Rangers. Me personally, I use them all the time. They pair very well with Clarion Call. Um, the only reason why they're not as good is because they have limited uses. But other than that, they like kind of outscale Clarion Call in every way. Because Clarion Call you can use infinitely. These guys have 10 uses. Or 11 or something like that. Pumpkin Bomb. This is literally just Spider Mine, except it does magic damage. So I'm putting it at C. Because it's, just not as good. Okay, Thunder Moose. He's going into, I'd say, A. Probably S for some people. Not for me, because he's just not that high level. But, yeah, again, he just good summon card. Pairs well with Valorious and Healing Spring and Clarion Call. Pretty tanky, and he does magic damage, like a fuck ton of magic damage. Okay, Armageddon. I'm throwing this in C. Like, there are not many times where you're gonna use this. It's expensive, it has a stupidly long cooldown, and, you know, it's got good damage, but really, like, you can use better spells, even though it's an epic. Like, and I have a level 3 Armageddon. I know what I'm talking about here, so it's really not all that. Same deal with Dragon, honestly. I don't like it at all. And I have a high level Dragon, so. Uh, Froststorm, though. Froststorm, on the other hand, A tier. Not as good as Freeze, but. And that's just because it doesn't hold them as long. Whereas Freeze holds, you know, a group of enemies in a radius for like half a minute. This thing holds all the enemies on the entire map for like 5 seconds. So, I mean, bit of a variation thing, but I think Freeze is overall better. And Thunder Goose. Thunder Goose, he's also going into A. I would honestly put him below Thunder Moose. Even though he is stronger, he has the Chain Lightning ability, so he can hit 4 enemies. You know, and a lot of magic damage. But he's more expensive, and he, like, does not last nearly as long as a summon, so kind of holds him back. Okay, Black Dragon. I don't have any of the legendary spells, because getting legendaries in this game is, like, impossible to begin with, but from what I do know, it's definitely at least A tier. It's like Dragon, but it does true damage. I think it's the only card that does true damage. So, yeah. Like, no armor is protecting you. Hand of God, same deal. It does physical damage. Honestly, I'm just putting all the legendary spells into A, except for Warcry. I think that deserves like C, maybe B. Um, I mean, it's like a super clarion call where it summons like 7 raiders, and they're all pretty tough, you know. But you got like 6 uses, and I don't even think they last that long. So, because clarion call, like you upgrade it to a high enough level, they'll stay on the battlefield for like 2 minutes before going away. Okay, finally, the Archer Tower. We're onto the actual towers. Archer Tower, yeah, don't use it. It's got really shitty um, base damage. You can upgrade the range and give it poison, but that poison is not useful against enemies with poison resistance, and it gets expensive fast, so, I mean, just don't use it. It's cheap, plentiful, there's 5, but, again, just don't. Holy Tower, I'll throw it in C. This tower is only good if you're low level, and you're in the undead area, because they do half damage to all other enemy types. But I mean, there's like what 5 of them. They're also cheap, but again, if you have better cards, like just don't even use it. Lightning Tower though, Lightning Tower, honestly B tier. Like this is a card that you'll get at the beginning of the game, and if you get it higher level, like even in the later levels, it's still viable. I mean, you just have better options is a thing. But if you upgrade this thing, all the damage, and get all the chain lightning upgrades, like it will literally kill orcs and serpents without any issue. Like hordes of them. Bomb tower, you know, your first AoE tower. Probably C tier. Like once you get better ones, you don't even need to use this. Like it's not special. Poison tower. S tier. Um the amount of damage that they do is ridiculous. They have a pretty short cooldown for their attacks. And unlike every other like poison attack card in this game, it has an upgrade so that it can ignore enemy poison resistance completely. So their armor means nothing. The only times where I wouldn't tell you to use this card is on the undead levels, because the undead automatically have, immunity. So you'd have to spend more on the poison resistance upgrades. Slowdown Tower, S tier. Every single player uses this card. Like, it is a lifesaver, genuinely. And it's just good to slow down the enemies. Snowball Tower, F tier. Don't use it. There's 7 of them, so it's like the most uh abundant, card, but and it's the cheapest. And its whole deal is it does like what? It does extra damage against serpents, like 1.5 times damage. But the issue is their base damage. It is abysmal. Like it is, it should be a crime what they did to this card. So don't use it. Anti-air. Okay. When I first saw this card, I thought it'd be useless because like, flying enemies are not that big of a deal in this game. They're not an issue. So why would I need to dedicate a whole, you know, card, a whole slot in my deck just to using this card? But you hit the the orc levels, the land beyond or whatever, and you have flying orcs that will, snipe your heroes from afar. They'll disable your towers in whole groups. So and it gets bad. So you realize like this tower is literally your best and really only option to take those orcs down. And because of that, I'm like throwing it into A, just because of that. Bola Tower, I think it's a good B. Um, you'll predominantly use this in the bird area, the desert. It does double damage against birds. Um, so yeah, and it has a great stun ability if you upgrade that. And honestly, I don't really use it anymore, but it is viable outside of the bird levels. I actually used this card to beat the serpent boss, because of the stuns, it just kept him in place. Dart Tower, D tier. Um, wouldn't use it in any situation. It does decent damage, but its whole gimmick is it draws mana from the enemies that it hits. And like I've been saying, there are better ways to generate mana in this game. Predominantly this shield and this accessory, that trinket. Illuminator Tower. For what it's worth, it's a C tier card. Um, you know, its whole thing is it dispels invisibility, but you don't gotta waste a whole uh slot in your deck when you got this just to throw on your hero. The only situation where I would use this is if it's on a big map that has like a lot of space for towers. Otherwise, like just use this. Bullet Tower, or not Bullet Tower, Javelin Tower. B. This is another enemy specific card. It does double damage against orcs, so it's great. You can upgrade the range and damage, and it becomes really good at killing orcs. So yeah, B. Mortar Tower. I'm gonna throw this at A. Um, you know, the anti-air tower is basically the mortar of the sky. This thing is great at just chomping away at like the weak enemy hordes. You only get 2 though, so you gotta know how to position them correctly. And yeah, you can upgrade the damage and range. It's good at what it does. So A. Sniper Tower, that can also go in A, to be honest. It's great, does really high damage, great range. It's great for, tanky enemies. Complete opposite of the mortar. Crossbow Tower. I'm gonna throw this at B. Um, it's like a better version of the Archer Tower. It does magic damage. You can upgrade its damage and upgrade it so that it has AoE. Only issue with this is while there's 5 of them and they're cheap at first, their upgrades get hella expensive really fast. So you gotta know what you're doing. Mana Tower. Okay, I personally don't use this, but I know a lot of players do, and because of that, I'm gonna throw it in A. This is probably the best way to generate mana if you really need it that bad. Um, I personally don't use it because I don't like having to waste 3 whole tower slots on the battlefield dedicated to just getting mana, but you know, you do you, I guess. Tesla, S tier. Um, create like a stupid amount of magic damage, especially when you upgrade it all the way. And you can upgrade the range a little bit, but like this thing will like slaughter armored enemies. And like really, it does good damage against magic protected enemies too. Gatling, S. This thing, I got it from a card pack. It like single-handedly has carried me through so many levels. Doesn't carry me anymore because I'm at tough levels, but it's AoE. I mean, you only get one of it, but it's stupidly overpowered. You upgrade it all the way, it will like tear apart grunts in seconds. And it even does pretty well against tankier enemies. Like, this thing has a lot of damage. But, Teslas are your guys for tough enemies. Volcano. It's the poor man's Gatling. It does its job. Has extra damage against Minotaurs, which you wouldn't really need to worry about because Minotaurs are the first enemies in the game. But, I mean, you get 3 of them. It's just the poor man's Gatling. Prisma of the Sun. I'll put that at B. Um, it does a bunch of single fire magic damage, but the thing is, this card only focuses on the highest health enemy in its range. So do not use this when you are first starting out a level, because it will create issues for you. And if you're trying to kill an enemy that just snuck past your defenses, this thing will not care about it. So, but for what it's worth, it's pretty good. Well of Souls. I'm gonna put it at A. It's the only other tower that you get one of, like the Gatling, does magic damage. What's special about it is it will do more damage the more enemies it kills, and obviously there's a cap to that. And it does a bit of AoE, but again, I think it kind of falls under the same category as these 3, but its rate of fire is much slower, so it's better for tanky enemies. And the Necromancer Tower, I don't have this one, but from what I can tell, it is good. It doesn't do any damage. What it does is any enemies that are killed in its range become reincarnated as skeletons, and you get 3 of them, so that's good. I mean, what else? I think this tower is special though, because it's the only tower in the game that gives you 3 upgrade options. Because all the other towers only have 1 or 2. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I completed the whole list. This is what I would say all the best cards are for what they're worth in Crazy King's Tower Defense, the dead mobile tower defense game that nobody knows except for me because I'm cool like that. All right.